Times are desperate, the weather is hot, and the brood is scattered to the four winds. Today on Poets at War, we have a special split broodcast. When you hear this sound,
it's Friday night.
You're listening to Friday night's broodcast. When you hear this sound,
It's Saturday!
it's from a special extension on Saturday. But first, a single report from the front. The General's Report, here on Poets at War. This is another Poets at War General Report. And here's your General, Joshua David Ling.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the General's Report. I'm sure you're wondering if you've been paying any kind of attention. I have not in any way put out any poems this week or any sort of short form content. Mostly because I have been working on reordering a whole bunch of stuff, not really changing anything, just reordering my workflows and trying to make them more efficient. And one of the main things that has come out of that is the creation of two pretty cool apps. These apps that I have created are HTML applets that can run either on the internet or locally. The first one is the more simple one. I'm cleaning up the house while I talk, which is the other reason I'm not on video, just so you know. So if you hear anything else, that's why. So these applets, right? They do some pretty cool stuff. The first one, that's the more simple one, is a simple DJ applet that basically does all the things that that I used to use on a program called OTS or OTS. That was a DJ mixing software from early 2010s, really. And we used that for my father's DJ business for years, and it was great. And it had very specific functions that we wanted, and can't really find all of it other places. A lot of DJ software is really overrun, especially for the style of DJing that I do. Just too many features, too many random things. This is very, very basic, and I'm very, very proud of it. You can check that one out if you want to try it for yourself at joshuadavidling.com/DJ. That one is the more simple of the two. The next one I did was specifically because I very often, and you guys have seen me, I've talked about this, I have used Trello for years now for a organizational software, productivity software, project management, that sort of a thing, to keep myself on track with all the myriad of weird and crazy gigs and jobs that I do. I don't use all of its functionality, but I use a lot of it, and there's a lot of other functionality that I wished I had. So in order to quit having to pay monthly for Trello, I decided to take my time and use my newfound AI coding abilities, my abilities, and of course the abilities of the AI, to code a web applet that would do everything that Trello does and more. And I also wanted to integrate a lot of my dice rolling abilities and things as digital to make things quicker and smoother, and so that I don't have to, carry dice with me if I need to go somewhere and work off of my list, because I can work on things mobilely as well. It's not just on my desktop. And so, yeah, it's sort of a combination of those two features mixed with writing. I wanted something that could, my epic poems are very, very granular. There's a lot of, there's the series, and then there's a season. You can have a season of a series, and then the episode, and then the poem. I've told you guys about this lots of different times. I wanted something that could store all of my stories in simple text format without a ton of formatting, and could export as simple text if I wanted a single poem or I wanted the entire, you know, compendium of whatever it was that I was writing. I could export that and then bring it into something else to, you know, format it and put it out in ebook form or do whatever else it was that I needed to do with this text. And so, yeah, it can do that. It can do all kinds of stuff. It's a really sweet kind of software. Um, so if you want to check that one out, it's joshuadavidling.com/B as in Bumblebee, D as in dog, B as in Bumblebee, BDB. And the BDB stands for Big Dog Board. My nickname when I played sports growing up was Big Dog, so that was the thought behind the naming. But the Big Dog Board is an amazing piece of software you can have in your arsenal. It saves to your local browser and allows you to export a saved file that you can save on your computer for loading later. So it does do autosave to your browser, and then for extra care and for cloud backup or whatever else you want to do, you can actually export a file that contains all your whole entire board. And yeah, it's pretty great. I am absolutely loving it. I am getting it set up with my current workflow, and it has been lovely, absolutely lovely. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. If you run into any bugs on either of these apps while you're playing with them, just let me know. Hit me up, joshuadavidling@gmail.com. Free to use, free to have fun with. If you want a download of them, you should probably know how to download an HTML file. But if you don't, and just want me to send you one, let me know. joshuadavidling@gmail.com. And I can go from there as far as that goes. I really appreciate you guys. I need to finish cleaning this house, so I'm going to end this general's report.
This is the Broodcast, Inkling-style Discord chat, last Friday of every month. To join, visit joshuadavidling.com/brood. And now, Operation Broodcast on Poets at War.
We're lion, witch, and warded, yeah. Our imaginations running wild and free. In Middle Earth or Narnia, there's magic in what we believe.
It's the mildly toasted beaver. I don't know why you're the first person here. It's very odd.
It's Friday night.
We will see.
Well, I know Daniel wasn't going to be around. I really want to. I was really hoping to reread a story, but there are no people here. So,
well, I still
alas.
want you. I would like you to, because people are going to listen to it later. And if you want to go back and forth on some stuff, we can for a little bit. TK said she might be able to pop in tomorrow, and I said I'd be willing to record it if she wanted to, and see what's what. But yeah, so I guess we can start with maybe one of mine, one of my two, because I'm reading two now, and then we can either do Joel in between or yours in between, and that's 4 things right there, you know, overall, my two, and then Joel's and yours. And we can break them up and see how things go, see if anyone else shows up. And if they don't, then that can be the show, or maybe be able to add in TK tomorrow.
want to do it.
Is Kira sharing anything?
I had an idea, but
Well, I can have another slot. There's not a lot of competition.
yeah. I might at the end if everyone's gone.
Okay.
If everyone's gone, there's no
If
one
everyone's
here.
gone.
No, I mean, like, wait, weren't you gonna share?
Oh, you mean if everyone
If
has
everyone's
taken,
done.
if everyone's taken their turn?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Once everyone is left, yeah, then I'll.
That's what I thought you meant. I thought you
No.
meant when everyone had left, and I'm like, what do you mean everyone's left? No one's here.
She'll just be here on Discord when I'm not even recording, just by herself in the room. Anyway, not even Craig. Anyway, all right. Okay. So I'll go ahead and start if
Start
that's
with-
fine with you with the
Do
first
it.
of my two, and we'll go from there.
Do it.
Okay.
Do it.
This is overall number 12. It's the second chapter of episode 2. It's called The Best of Times. Are you ready? Came the announcer's voice. Not that the audience had much of a choice. Everyone stood, both fan and crew. This is WWL Forever Night, live on pay-per-view. Do you want any popcorn? Joshua asked Anne. Remember we introduced a little girl and a little boy meeting each other last time back in 1995. This is a couple years later. Quite a few years later, but no thanks. How about some nachos then? You're like a Greek mother, Anne giggled heartily. I don't want any food now. I'm too happy. This is the biggest event of the year. If you want something, get it quick. Then Anne continued to cheer. Joshua went up to the concession stand, and he had a $1 bill in the palm of his hand. He bought a simple blue candy ring, and when he got back to his seat, the first bell did ring. Warren Nicholson versus Killer Kyle Singer. Then Joshua slipped the ring onto Anne's finger. Anne laughed at the gesture. Are you proposing to me? Yes, Joshua said. Will you marry me? Joshua, she said, we're only 15. I know, Anne, but I've got this whole scheme. I become a football coach, and then we buy a house. And by the time we turn 18, will you please be my spouse? Anne smiled in curiosity, weighing his intentions. She licked the candy ring on her finger. I'll answer with a question. Are you fully serious in wanting to marry me? As fully serious as I've ever been or ever will be. Then yeah, I'll marry you. Come on, why not? And even when their parents knew, no one thought they were sincere. Yet Anne wore her ring when the candy was gone, year after year after year. So that's that one.
That's well, yeah, sure, but that's problematic for your story.
What's problematic? He's 15
doesn't
too.
No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jessica,
isn't Isn't there is this a love triangle, Mr. Joshua?
Or is it not?
Dun, dun, dun.
I suppose we'll find out more.
Yes.
Any which way, what do you have for us, my friend? You're next. Unless you want Joel. Unless you want Joel to go. Joel, who's not here.
Joel, who is not here. I mean, I don't care if we want it, like, because you're doing too. I think people would like to have the split. From a audio standpoint, I think it would make more sense to split up the voices so that, like, you go, then someone else goes, then you go again. Right. I do not want to go next, but so I guess I will have to.
Well, I can do Joel next if you want me to. I'll read Joel again, but you mean audio voice? Then that's fine. You can go next. Whatever you want to do.
I meant audio voice. Let me
gotcha.
do something real quick. All right. It should be okay. I will read. Let me find it. Wait, it's literally right here. What am I doing? Where is the thingy? Where is the thingy? There is the overgrowth. All right. So this is supposed to be the first thing you read. I mentioned this game I've been working on. This is something that this is part of this game. This is a story that I read 2 years ago. It's a short story. It's meant to introduce the faction. I guess I have questions because I like last time I got really positive feedback. People really liked it. But I didn't get, there was a lot of, oh, that was cool. I liked this. I had this in my story. I had this in my story. And it's like, okay, but what is interesting? And if you were just to read this by itself, what do you think this is a story about? Or what do you think this is leading toward, right? That's basically like what I'm trying to, I want to know what is. Yeah, I guess I need to know what works, why it works, and if you think this works for an introduction to a specific faction that I will tell at the end, so as not to spoil the surprise.
Right.
So, Dale carefully moved through the underbrush, trying his best not to get Hold on. I'm going to restart because I want to. Where's page up on this? Oh, that's not it. Nope. I'm trying to zoom in.
Oh.
Let me just. There we go. Got it. There we go. Attempt 2. Dale carefully moved through the underbrush, trying his best not to get snagged on the thorns and branches that seemed to reach out of the trees. His crew was called out to get more lumber for the war machines, and it was an all-day and most of the night duty. But he obeyed, for it was far better to obey than to earn the ire of the warlock. How much farther? Sven, his crewmate, grumbled at the other one. Nearly there. Jack was chipper, despite the long day. I'm telling you, this'll keep us busy for a while. Dale didn't respond. The musky scent of the forest was something he was used to, but it was particularly strong today. That should be tonight. Probably because the fog bank that rolled through that evening. Jack had claimed he had found a tree so large the warlock would be pleased with their findings. Of course, he had to brag about this within earshot of the boss. And so now they were stuck trying to find it. Not only that, but they had an escort with them. One of the scarecrows of the field marched along menacingly. No one had to explain why it was there, but they all knew. If they didn't behave, they wouldn't see the dawn. Dale suddenly collided with Sven. He had stopped, which seemed to be a result of Jack stopping. Watch it, Sven snarled. He obviously was the most put off by their escort. Jack, what's up? They had just entered a bit of a clearing. Small toadstools grew all over the earthen floor. Above them, the night sky seemed so peaceful, the stars twinkling in the deep blue-purple tapestry above them. Jack's voice was quiet. I don't get it. It was here. What do you mean it was here? Sven said, his voice angry, but underneath it was real nervousness. This is the glade where the tree is supposed to be. Jack's voice was annoyed as he wildly gestured into the empty clearing. It should be right there. Did you get lost? Sven asked, Sven asked, side-eyeing the scarecrow. Please tell me you got lost. There's got to be a big tree for the boss, right? I didn't get lost, and I'm not lying, Jack snapped, desperation entering his voice. Behind them, a gravelly chuckle escaped from the scarecrow. Don't worry, little Jack. The demon in the stuffed straw body shuddered as its glowing red eyes fell on the smallest of the group. You have all night to find this tree of yours. Dale moved quickly forward to Jack. You sure this is the right spot? Jack nodded quickly, his eyes darting around, trying to think of something. I mean, I'm sure I didn't get turned around. I marked my route like we were supposed to. I measured the diameter and everything. Dale moved forward into the field until suddenly his foot sank deeper than he was expecting. Kneeling down, he examined the earth. In the middle of the clearing was a large deposit of loose soil. It was turned and disrupted like soil around a weed that had just been pulled up. Hey, Jack, Dale called back to his compatriot. How big did you say the tree was? 66 inches. Why? Jack trotted into the glade after Dale, Sven and the Scarecrow following shortly behind. Dale didn't like that answer. He had been a lumberjack for 20 years, and he was confident in his ability to guess size just by sight. The torn-up dirt in front of him would have been perfect for the size of that tree. I think you got the right place. I just think your tree was... He glanced up at the Scarecrow, not sure if finishing the sentence would end in his execution. Its eyes flashed. You know this forest, mortal. Its voice hissed out from the darkness. Do you think such an event could occur? Trees don't move, Sven said quickly. Must have done something wrong. He turned and raised his lantern. Come on, guys, before this fog gets any thicker. It was then that the earth moved. Under their feet, the mushrooms rippled like a tide, and from the mist leapt a figure. In a blur of motion, the scarecrow was sliced in half. It screeched an infernal sound, a mixture of pain and fury. Its shadowy body extended from the straw, clawing toward the assailant. However, the fungi beneath it seemed to open like a maw, slamming shut over it and trapping it in place. Dale looked around just in time to see something big and burly with what looked like a wide hat strike him hard with a club. As he went flying, he saw Sven get buried under a swarm of smaller hat-wearing things. The demon in the scarecrow unleashed a loud shriek of anger, only to be silenced with the sound of a sword stabbing through cloth and straw. Dale tried to get air, but his lungs were filled with some kind of powder. He didn't know what drowning felt like, but he imagined it would be something like this. He blinked away the tears of pain and gazed with horror at the events unfolding before him. The giant tree, the one that they were supposed to find, was moving back into its location. It was following something. It looked human, but its head was wrong. As his vision darkened, the thing turned, saw him, and moved over. His eyes finally were able to see it, and he realized what happened. Its head was a mushroom. All of these things, their hats, were not hats. They were mushroom caps. This thing bent over him and, holding up its hand, clenched it into a fist. Pain exploded through Dale's chest, and as he died, the last thing he tasted was the earthy taste and texture of a fungal growth growing out of his body. That is the end of the story.
Mhm.
The next line that you would read is, deep in the heart of the forest, a consciousness stirs. Its heart beats deep in the earth. Its mind stretches, feeling through the roots and branches of each plant. It sees all in its domain. It feels every step of every animal on its roots. It senses the threat that approaches, and now it pushes back, gaining strength as it grows. It is the forest. It is every stalk, every leaf, every spore that it spreads. The further it reaches, the stronger it becomes. It is the Yanavari overgrowth. And that is the intro to that particular faction of mushroom people.
I love the idea of having these. I know that it's not original amongst all the various, roleplay games to have a narrative introduction to something like a faction or a nation or a, race or whatever, right? Like this is something that does exist, but because you love story and you have such a feel for vibe, like really and truly getting the vibes right for games, narratively, like it's a masterpiece in my opinion as far as this sort of thing goes. How else would you want mushroom people introduced? Like if they're actually supposed to be formidable and scary, how else are you going to introduce mushroom people like better than that? There's just no way. Like, so that's the thing that I really like about it is it gives the exact feel of what it would be like to fight these mushroom people and the way that they fight and little tastes of the fact that they have a very mysterious culture. You know what I mean? Like they're not someone who's like, with elves immediately, for Tolkien's elves, the thing that you get almost immediately is goodness, like just a feeling of home and warmth, but also of mischief and play, of extreme power, but veiled behind this youthfulness, right?
Yeah.
You express these mushroom people pretty much as well as Tolkien does when he starts to describe elves for the first several times in his stories. It gives you a feel. That's why I like it. And
like the thing is, this is first contact. Like, I think my personal opinion of this is the first time any nation would have had contact with them, because like in the great overarching scheme of the story, I have like an entire time, but like this thing has been around for a while, but it hasn't acted until recently in game time.
Yes.
right?
So
And
they're a relatively new
this-
faction amongst all the factions. Yeah.
Well, it's it's relatively new in the sense that this is the first time actually.
Right.
But again, it's been around for a while. It just hasn't done anything, and it's hidden. It's
Right.
remained the fact that, oh, I'm just a forest. Don't
Mhm.
mind me. Keep chopping down my trees. It's okay. You're not actually doing any damage to me, but I'm okay. I'm fine here.
Right.
But for reasons that we'll get in that we can get into in a far distant future, it's decided, okay, now I need to actually do something.
Right.
And so this is literally the first time anyone has ever run into this, which is kind of why it's almost horror-esque. The one thing that I'm a little concerned about is like I feel like I spend so much time with these other characters, but they're not actually the focus really of the point, or no, they're not. They are the focus, but they're not the point of the story.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
The point of the story is the ending punchline, and I guess I'm a little worried that doesn't necessarily work, but
Yeah, it does.
okay, my wife is telling me it does.
And it makes
I agree.
the story makes me want to play the game because I'm really bad at understanding mechanics. But you set up a really good story that like makes me interested in the game.
It makes you want to learn
Like,
the mechanics so you can play.
Like it's what, like, because if I just had heard the mechanics and everything and some of the basic, like a little bit of information, it's kind of like overwhelming. But the story makes me interested in it enough to like look into it more.
One of the things that I had intended. That's really good to hear, because one of the things that I had intended is for there to be magic in this world, and one of the spells that the overgrowth has is basically fog cloud. How many times in the story did I mention that this random fog seemed to appear overnight, like in the middle of the night, like this fog bank moved through? Right. I'm planning on having like something where they can like slow enemy movement by having the earth bind it in place, right? So maybe I need to do more of that throughout the things, so to make it more palatable for, I say make it more palatable for people like you. Realistically speaking, if I were to try to sell this, you wouldn't be my target audience.
Yeah.
Right.
But maybe it would help bridge a gap and get more people in. I don't know. Anyway, that's it. That's all I've got. Joel, I'm looking forward to hearing what you say. Also, Ramsey, if you watch this, I miss you, my friend. You are very,
hope you're
you are
doing
very
well.
cool, and I'm really interested in your story.
Yeah, we hope you're doing well, John. So anyway. All right. We're gonna go to mine next. And then we'll go to Joel or Kirith, whichever one wants to go.
The other you, you're sharing
other
too?
me. Yeah. I'm sharing
The other
too.
you.
I've been doing two because everyone says mine is always so short. So I'm like, just do two, So that's one of the phrases I get all the time. I'm like, yeah, they're literally like a scene poem, and they all tie together. So that's why. But anyway, all right. This is back to the main timeline, which is 2010. The last place we left Jessica, just so everyone remembers, was she called the teacher of Joshua Slater's wrestling school for two reasons. One, to learn more about him and to come down to the guy's school and learn more about him, but also because she's not getting booked on a lot of shows because the general manager is kind of blackmailing her at the moment, blackballing her, so to speak. She wants to begin seeing what schools are out there that she could potentially become a trainer at. And in wrestling, a lot of wrestlers, they come up young and they learn the business, and then when they get older and they're not used as much anymore, the wrestling community kind of comes around them and says, hey, you still will have a job, like you're going to be a trainer. It's a gypsy culture kind of a thing, and so they help with that. So she's testing the waters because she's getting toward the end of her career. Females have shorter careers than males in wrestling in general, so she's mid 30s. She's getting toward the end of what would normally be considered a run. So anyway, this is 2010, back on the regular timeline with Jessica. Jessica came into Gary's school to talk and have a chat, not just with Gary Horner, but anyone in his class who might be able to tell her more about Joshua Slater's past. And in the meantime, she'd teach a class and have herself a blast. She talked to many of the students in between wrist locks and slams. Nobody had a bad thing to say about Josh, though one did say he was a ham. And as she continued to ask questions, her eyes were opened to see what type of guy this big dog was and what made him tick and breathe. He was cool when he was here, one of the rookies said. He helped me understand leg locks better. Without those, I'd be dead. Another said, he's great with kids. They're always on his side. No matter who he's against in that ring, they wear his merch with pride. It seemed that everywhere Jess turned, somebody had a story of the big dog as a shining light, reflecting his savior's glory. But none could explain to her why he hesitated at hanging out with her. But one did tell her, I think he's engaged, though that didn't make her sure. He never wore a wedding band or any telltale signs. This lingering enigmatic question weighed on Jessica's mind. But she quieted it for just a moment to ask the school's head coach, "Excuse me, Randy, do you know the big dog? What's he like to approach?" Randy Kirby was a former tag team champion, with Billy, his little brother. They'd wrestled together for many years, and Jessica knew their mother. So when Randy said, "Oh yeah, he's great," some of Jessica's worries subsided, but she pressed him for more information. "Does he resist being guided?" Randy thought for a moment. "On some level, yes. He's fiercely independent, but he likes to be put to the test. Maybe if I show you a match from about a year back, you'd have a better idea of who he is and what qualities he lacks." So we're going to get to that match in the next one. But that's where we're at. So she's finding out more about him. Go ahead.
I just took a bite of ice cream. Wait a minute.
I'm waiting.
I think I really liked your the change in the rhyme pattern that you had at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it just, I don't know. It was nice to have like a sort of rapid fire rhyme of fast, or not fast, but you know what I mean, right?
I like to use changes like that where it's the same rhyme over and over to express a comfortable mundanity or an uncomfortable mundanity, depending on the situation and how short the lines are. These were a little bit longer lines, but they all ended a lot the same in order to kind of express that, like, she's comfortable here, right? That she's comfortable teaching in the school.
It's interesting. I don't get comfort from that, but that might be me.
Yeah.
Right?
What'd you get from it?
To me, that sounds, a rapid fire rhymes sound like you're moving from, like, the scene is moving quickly, almost.
That too. It gives a sort of a montage sort of feel to it, right?
Yeah. Montage. That's a good way of putting it, right? It seems like, all right, we're moving the scene along, let's go. Right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily the characters are going fast, because, like, I mean, you could do that with characters moving fast, where, like, the world is spinning by the character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that would work amazing for that. But the way that it was here, with what you were saying and what was happening, because it was clear that she wasn't, like, overwhelmed.
Yes.
She was the one initiating the action. So I think that, to me, that just
she was in her element.
Montage.
Yeah.
But
she was in her element.
Yeah.
Very cool. Glad that came across.
That's the only thing that I wanted to say.
Yep. I really have fun writing stuff like that and just making it feel, once again, it's the vibes, making it feel the way that it needs to be. And doing that with poetry is really fun when you know what you're doing. Um. Anyway, Joel or Kirith next?
Go first.
Joel first.
All right. I'm not
Kirith
sure
has
if you.
decreed.
I'm not sure if he wanted me to read this note at the beginning, but I'm going to read it anyway because it doesn't have a note to say not to read it. He says, I added in a symbol on his cloak in part 1. The war. So this is the same story that he's been reading, the ghosts and stuff recently.
Okay.
The warrior was a member of the Red-Eyed Jackals. All were killed in a battle with a necromancer. All but 10 left to defend the village. That is where he picked up Heather and Beth. So that's what he says here. So, part 3. Toby woke with a jolt. Who? What? Lisa yawned and leaned out of the carriage window to look behind them. It was just a big bump, Lisa said, patting his knee. Across from the siblings, the others slept on. The beautiful mage, Angela, sat straight and stiff, while Harold, in his royal guard tunic, slumped on her shoulder. A trickle of drool glistened in his beard. Even after 2 days in the carriage, Toby still woke every time the wheels went over a rock. He rubbed his eyes, still feeling groggy, and stretched. He immediately let out a wince. I don't know how you let out a wince. That was just a note. Anyway, but okay. Yeah, he winced. Whatever. It's time for more medicine, Lisa said as she pulled out the bottle. I hate that stuff. Doc Halpert said you need 3 doses a day. Tony drank the measure and looked out at the dimly lit landscape. In the distance, he saw the stone walls of North Abner. Tents surrounded the castle, hiding all but the crenellations atop the wall. He pointed out to his sister. She leaned over him to look. That must be where we're going. They didn't mention the army camped around it, she whispered. I wonder what else they didn't tell us. The driver knocked on the roof. Angela stretched and gave a yawn before shrugging off her traveling companion. Reaching into a hidden bag in her large sleeve, she produced a bottle and took a swig. Her eyes brightened and the rosy color returned to her cheeks. She ran her hand over her blonde hair, over her hair blonde, and all the kinks vanished. Here, she offered the bottle. You should not be weary when you face this challenge, and it will be better for you to look your best when you meet the general. Toby took a sip. The world snapped into focus. His bleary eyes cleared, and the morning fog lifted from his thoughts. Angela straightened his jacket and then moved to smooth out some wrinkles from Lisa's cloak, casting spells that cleaned and freshened. She poked Harold. It should be Harold. Okay. She poked Harold with her elbow as she sat back. She sat up and scratched his beard. Are we there? Are we there? Almost, Angela said. Hand me that basket you've been guarding. Guarding? You slept with it in a death grip. I hope you didn't crush the bread. Harold snorted as she started handing out their breakfast. Another spell, and the apple bread was as fresh as the hour it came out of the oven. She buttered and passed slices around. Those are some useful spells. I've never met a mage, Lisa commented as she took a slice. I have to study for a week to learn it, but I'm going to use it every chance I get. Angela gave a wink. How's the goblin bite? Toby put his foot on the edge of the seat next to her. It feels better. Angela lifted the bandage and poked at the wound, frowning. Well, it isn't infected, but it isn't healing as fast as it should either. I'll get you a potion when we get to the camp. I don't think we can afford that, Lisa said, giving her brother a worried look. We'll call it a down payment for your services, Lisa gave another wink. Now when you meet the general, you must stand straight and speak clearly, Harold said. Only talk when spoken to, and keep your hands at your side. Do you want me to wait in the carriage? Lisa asked. No, I'd rather have you by my side. I'd rather have you by my side. Toby squeezed her hand. 150 silver pieces, 150 silver pieces, Lisa whispered in Toby's ear. That's more money than I've ever seen. They really must want these spirits gone. Toby stepped gingerly past the rubble that surrounded the wall. Lisa stepped over a rotting corpse, still wearing its Royal Guard armor. A rat ran out from the breastplate. Do you think they're soldiers? Almost certainly. Oh, do you think there are? It should be, it's the wrong there. Do you think they're soldiers? Almost certainly. They must have sworn some oath as the castle was being overrun. How's your foot feeling? Good as what? What?
I think they were asking, do you think they are soldiers, like the spirits?
It could be that as well, but it says, do you think they are soldiers, like the possessive one, THEIR? So that's yeah. So the I know it's wrong either way. Anyway, it could be they are, or yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
Good as new. Watch this spot. Good as new. Watch this spot. Toby pointed to a puddle of black goo oozing from under a skeleton. He stopped and looked closer at its armor. Hey, look. Dirty and wrinkled, the red-eyed jackal was still unmistakable. Do you think it was him? Lisa asked. No, he was taller. I think this was one of his friends that died in that battle. Does that mean the necromancer was here? Lisa looked around, clutching at her cloak. Was, or is, Toby pointed to the bare hills. The general said the place was abandoned when they returned, but they couldn't get in to search. My guess is they don't know where he is. Maybe the ghost scared him away. A necromancer? Unlikely. Probably why they're in such a hurry to get the ghost out of here. Toby stopped as he reached the immense door. Several of its thick wooden beams were reduced to splinters, leaving a gap both could comfortably slip through. They saw evidence of repairs that had been started, then abandoned. Maybe you should wait there. Maybe you should wait here, Toby suggested. No, I'm staying with you. Toby shrugged and pulled out his amulet. He took a deep breath before stepping through the door. More bodies littered the ground, piles of bones mixed with more recent corpses. The number of dead soldiers and skeletons grew as they needed the, it says needed the tower. I'm guessing something like climbed the tower or something. I don't know. But it says as they needed the tower. What did this? Lisa asked, pointing at the entrance to the keep. A 10-foot circle had been cleared of all bodies as if some force had blown them all away. That ghost. Toby could see it floating just inside the door. He held up his hand, telling his sister to stop. Medallion up, he crept forward, stopping at the edge of the cleared circle. What is your name? What is your bond? Gerald, the ghost hissed. I will not let any enter this keep. The ghost waved its hand, lifting a discarded helmet. Gerald, the battle is over. You have fulfilled your duty and your oath. You may rest with honor and peace. The helmet dropped as the specter let out a long sigh and faded. Well, that didn't seem too hard, Lisa said. Is it gone? Yeah, let's hope they're all that easy. The general said that they saw some in the upper windows. What did this one say? He swore not to let any pass through this door. It looks like he took out quite a few. Probably bought the others some time. So specific a task. You said those are easy. Especially when it's completed. Let's light that lamp and find the others. Lisa struck a match and carefully lit the wick. She held it high as she followed Toby through the stone doorway, into the darkness. Keeping his medallion up, Toby led the way past more bodies up the stairs. He was almost at the top when the lamp went out and the temperature dropped. The light from the windows dimmed. Stay still. Something's coming. Toby held the amulet close to his eye. A ghost flew through the wall and circled him once before speeding off down the hallway. Heather? Toby gasped. It returned and repeated the same action, stopping halfway down the hall. Toby sprinted down the hall after the spirit. Toby, wait! What is it? Lisa called after him. It's a woman, not a soldier, he shouted over his shoulder. It wants us to follow. He rounded a corner to find the ghost swirled around a door at the far end of the hall. It glided through as he approached. It's locked. Toby looked back to see Lisa still at the corner. They gave you a monster... excuse me, no, not monster, that's my bad. They gave you a master key, right? Here, Lisa threw the key to him. Toby unlocked the door and pushed. The door opened an inch, but bumped against something. From inside came the sound of a baby crying. Lisa finally caught up, and together they pushed the door open. A woman's skirt stuck under the door. The ghost flew out and spun around them before flying away. Toby looked up just in time to shove Lisa aside. A cutlass slashed into the door just above her head, leaving a deep gash. Toby looked down the blade to see bone fingers holding the handle. Tiny pinpricks of light glared at him from a skull. The skeleton jerked its weapon back and lifted it high above his head. Toby dove forward, pushing his attacker off balance. It staggered backwards, then swung. Toby ducked and rolled over the bed. The skeleton paused, then began walking around the bed. The baby cried again, and the skeleton turned, looking for the noise. Jumping over the bed, Toby kicked with both feet and landed on the mattress. He sent his attacker flying into the far wall. He seized an iron candlestick as the bone figure tried to stand. Toby swung for the skull, sending the skeleton flying across the room and landing in a clump by the window. The ghost flew back into the room, circling the skull. The skeleton completely ignored the spirit and stood, lifting its sword to Toby. A hand raised over the windowsill seized the spine from behind. The bones were thrown back and fell out of sight. Toby ran to the window and looked down. A man was clinging to the side of the building. The red-eyed jackal ripped as his cloak blew in the wind. Toby grabbed his shoulders and pulled him in. The man sat on the floor, catching his breath. Gray patches now appeared in his beard, and his cloak was faded and tattered, but other than that, he looked almost exactly like Toby remembered. "You!" Toby gawked. The ghost hovered over the man. "I'm Jeffrey. Thanks." The warrior waved at the ghost. "Don't worry about..." "Yeah, I know all about them. You told me when I was a kid, remember?" Toby ran his hands through his hair. "It's him!" Lisa gasped from the door. She stepped over the body and stood beside Toby. Jeffrey narrowed his eyes at them, then nodded. "The old farm with the goblins? Wow, you two got big. Has it been that long?" 10 years. What are you doing here?" He jerked his thumb at the chest in the corner. The baby cried again. Lisa took the key from Toby and opened the chest. She pulled out the baby and cuddled it. The necromancer leaves a trail of orphans in his wake," Jeffrey grunted, digging in his satchel. "These days, I just follow him around." He pulled out a bottle and mixed some powder and water in it before passing it to Lisa. She bounced as she fed the baby. It gulped down the liquid as fast as it could. But why did you climb up the side of the keep to the window?" He blinked at them for a moment, then looked away, mumbling. "The ghost at the door threw me out. I had to find another way in." 3 specters hovered behind him. Heather, Beth, Rose. "It's nice to see all of you," Toby said, holding up his amulet. "I can free them if you want." Can you?" Jeffrey rubbed his head. "Let's make sure there aren't any more lost kids around here." The 4th ghost appeared, swirling frantically. She found something." Jeffrey grabbed the windowsill and pulled himself to his feet. Toby held up the amulet, and all the colors left his face. "Debbie says the basement, tunnel, whites." He looked at the others. "She says run." You can hear them?" Jeffrey's jaw dropped. "Come on." The 3 of them bolted from the room, Jeffrey holding his sword ready, taking the steps 2 at a time. Lisa clutched the baby. Toby grabbed a sword and brought up the rear. They came to the bottom of the stairs and skidded to a halt. All of the skeletons around the courtyard were standing, watching the door. "It's a trap," Jeffrey gasped. Heather, Beth, and Rose flew past them, slamming the door and creating a screen of... Hold on. A screen of fog. "What do we do?" Lisa whispered, eyes wide. She held the baby close and stroked its head. "There's a secret exit. All good keeps have them." Jeffrey looked around. "Great. Where is it?" "How should I know?" Toby fumbled with his amulet. "Debbie, Heather, can you find the hidden exit?" Or that would be Toby, I guess. It says, "Debbie, Heather, can you find the hidden exit?" Both ghosts flew away. "They listen to you?" Jeffrey gave Toby a suspicious look. "It's his amulet," Lisa explained. Her eyes widened. "We need to warn the general." Debbie," Toby said, "go find Angela. She's the blonde mage." "Will she listen?" Hold on. Sorry, my scrolling is being funky. She told me to send a signal. She gave me these. Toby pulled out a red silk handkerchief and threw it over the specter. It floated down slowly. Debbie reached out a hand. They all watched as the handkerchief hovered. And now it's on a completely different page. That was annoying. Almost there. Okay, that's better. I think. Okay. She told me to send a signal. She gave me these. Toby pulled out a red silk handkerchief. He threw it over the specter. It floated down slowly. Debbie reached out a hand. They all watched as the handkerchief hovered over her spectral fingers, fluttering as if in a wind. Might work, Jeffrey grunted. Debbie flew off, the handkerchief leaving a red streak behind her. The sound of steel scraping stone caused all of them to spin around. A wight was climbing up the steps, dragging its sword on the wall. It watched them with an evil smile. "Go back up!" Jeffrey drew his sword and threw back his cloak. "Come on!" Lisa shoved Toby up the stairs. A ghost flew past them to the top of the stairs. Lisa shrieked and covered the baby. The child cried again. "It's okay. It's Heather." Toby wrapped hands to hold up his amulet. "Secret found," the ghost hissed. She sped away down the hall. "Jeffrey, it's on this floor," Toby shouted back. "Go, I'll catch up," the warrior shouted over the clanging steel. Toby and Lisa ran after Heather to a second-story bedroom. The specter hovered in front of the fireplace. She drifted through the mantle, then back. It's here. We just have to find the lock." With her free hand, Lisa started pulling books off the shelves. Toby pushed past her to poke and pull at each crack or chip in the stone hearth. His blood ran cold at the sound of bones grinding behind him. He spun around as a skeleton stood up from under the bed. It lifted its axe and swung at Lisa. Toby blocked with the sword. He pulled back and slashed, the blade raking across the ribs. The skeleton ignored the attack and swung for Toby's head. He ducked just in time. Heather glided over, covering the skull and blinding it. Aiming for the neck, Toby swung with all his might. His sword separated the bones, sending the head flying. With no books left on the shelf, Lisa moved to the hearth. She grabbed a candelabra and felt it something. Should be felt something. She pulled and pushed, then twisted. The wall to the side of the fireplace spun with it. "I got it!" "Good, go!" Toby said between heavy breaths. He ran to the door and saw Jeffrey coming down the hall, still fighting two wights. Feeling the cold chill, he lifted his pendant and whispered to the spirits behind him. Heather, Beth, I need you to lift me. Jeffrey parried, then stabbed, missed, then parried again. He took another step back, stealing a glance over his shoulder. Rose glided between the undead, confusing and disorienting his opponents. Beth and Heather lifted Toby, taking turns to throw him a few inches at a time until he was high enough to grab a rafter. He pulled himself up and leapt across until he was above the battle. He pulled the sword from his belt and gulped, trying to swallow his fear. The sword held down, he jumped. The ghost mothers all flew up, through him, slowing him slightly. He landed with a thud on the second white. His blade penetrated into the skull, straight to the hilt. Toby sprawled on his back, the now dead white on top of him. He pulled, but the sword stayed stuck. The first white turned, and as its blade raised, Toby saw his life flash before his eyes. For an instant, he saw the three mothers floating above his attacker. Their faces were caring and lovely as they reached for him. If they were to escort him to the afterlife, he couldn't think of a more welcoming introduction. The spray of blood shocked him, and the ghosts were once again gray mist, shrouded in torn veils. That was too close, Jeffrey said, pulling his sword from the white. Where did you come up with a crazy stunt like that? Trying to be some sort of ghost warrior? And that was the end of that one. He says, did I end too abruptly? Should I have a bit about them coming out of the secret passage and finding Angela and the others there to save them, or is it assumed and not needed? I am at 6,100 words, so still in the normal short story stage. I would love any other thoughts on this or the story as a whole.
What's a short story?
No, it's a short story.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
There's two other chapters he read previously, yeah.
Oh.
Yes, this is chapter 3. They're not really in chronological. Well, they're in chronological order, but they're not.
They have gaps.
A after B after C.
Yeah.
There are gaps in the story.
Yeah.
Although the goblin bite happened in the previous one before this, so
yes.
Really the biggest gap is between 1 and 2.
Yes.
If this is the third one, okay. So to answer your question, Joel, on that front, if this is the third and final one and you don't want to do any more, I would do something with a little more closure. For me, the bigger thing is the less the abruptness and more the just some of the. It might not. Okay. When reading out loud, some of the part feels clunky because you have a tendency to start sentences with he did this, then he did this, then he did this. I think, like, for example, if we go back to the fight in the tower with this first skeleton with Toby, not Toby. Toby's your character. With whoever this guy is. The exorcist, not the red jackal.
Yeah. Toby. Toby is the boy, yeah, who grew up.
Yeah.
Got the goblin bite, all that, yeah.
Yeah. You say something like he dove over the bed, the skeleton went around, he jumped and he basically drop kicks the skeleton. Yeah. He jumps and with both feet sends his opponent flying to the floor. You then say he grabbed a candlestick or something, right? A candelabra or whatever.
Actually, Lisa grabbed the candelabra because she was trying to get the fireplace to open.
No.
There's another part where he grabs a candlestick. Yeah,
there's
right.
another that during that part. I think it would flow better if you were to do at that moment, say, grabbing the candlestick, Toby swung for the head as the skeleton was getting to its feet.
Right.
Just slightly adjust it to make to do less. He blank, he blank, he blank. Right?
Right.
At least in that particular section. I love the order of events. I love the story itself. It's just, I think needs to be a little bit of draftsmanship cleanup, draft cleanup, just minor technical editing, right? Like, not, this isn't major. Like, I'm not saying, like I don't think, I think all of the events are in the right spot. I just think you can change up the sentence structure, change up the order a little bit to make it more intriguing and to give the eye a break and let it flow smoother. That's the only thing I would have. As far as that comment is concerned. And also the whole, maybe add a little thing of them meeting up with a, right? Especially if this is the last of your short stories. If you want to do another short story after that, maybe you can do that, but I don't know. I don't know things.
I think he's probably doing something more, because you don't really introduce a mage and then she's just not part of the thing, right? Like the mage, I think, has definitely like another chapter. But maybe she's the necromancer. Who knows? But yeah, who knows? That's just to throw it out there as a guess. But the thing that I really liked about this was the meeting back up with the mentor years later thing is not something you see super often. Like, he got inspired to do this because of Jeffrey, and now he's seeing him years later, and they do remember each other, but it's not like some kind of sentimental, reoccurrence.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're actually working in the same field together now. Okay. Oh, wait, you've surpassed me in some ways? That's interesting. How'd you do that? Like, they're almost immediately talking shop,
Side note, why is the big warrior's named Jeff?
Jeffrey.
I am Jeff the warrior. What? Not even the warrior. I am Jeff the ghost paladin. Johnny the what?
Yep. I think that's part of the joke, honestly.
That's hilarious. I love it.
I think the idea is you never know his name. He's just the stranger kind of a thing. Well, it's because his name's Jeffrey. Like,
hi, Jeff.
All right. Kirith, it is your turn when you are ready.
Okay. I'm going to first read the 2 sentences that I have for a story I want to introduce, and then I'll go into it. So,
okay.
The opening sentences that I have are, what if there was no such thing as a unicorn in Akuland at all? Pennant thought to himself before he trembled from the mere idea. Where did that thought come from? There was definitely some kind of deception going on among the penguins, and Pennant was beginning to suspect that darklings were not creatures of malice. So that was just my I was just,
that's fun. I like that.
Yeah, that was a great opening. But this story is actually was from my idea where for a while now I've had an idea of having kids being kidnapped by evil unicorns, but I decided to make it unicorns that aren't actually unicorns, but unicorns in disguise.
Right.
Or not evil creatures in disguise as unicorns. And they've enslaved. It was kind of like if you've heard of the anime Finding Neverland.
The Promised Neverland. Finding Neverland is a movie starring Johnny Depp.
I keep getting the wrong name because they use Neverland in it. But if you've not heard of that, that's an anime where these kids at an orphanage discover that they're basically being farmed and they're demon food. And my idea was, at first, like, I was like, okay, that is such a dark premise. Like, I feel almost horrible writing something like this. but then what I've done is I've actually changed it a lot to, yes, there's this underlying evil of, these evil creatures are trying to, I'm not sure yet exactly, but they're trying to harvest like humans for something, but they need them for a certain amount of time. And my idea is that they collect human tears, but a certain kind of like like where there's like a bitter yeah, I don't know, certain tears. Um and so it kind of changed from just being slaves to they're lied to. And I mean even from the beginning it was that they're lied to and they don't realize they're human, and then they find out, wait a second, we're human. And it's the whole, like in my original story that I wrote, they're debating um in a public debate, they're debating that they're humans, and like the unicorns are just like, what, you're so crazy, and all of that. Because my idea originally was that the kid, these human kids have been like raised so poorly that they to the unicorns, like they can't even walk on 2 feet, and so they don't and they just look like, yeah. And so my idea is still that some of it is like they're not treated well, but it's a different kind of not treated well. It's that they're told that they're not human and they're supposed to turn into from darklings into freelings. And and yeah, so basically it's sort of like they're told that they've been taken as these like projects to transform them into creatures with wings or whatever. And so because that's not really like technically not possible except through deception and illusions, yeah, so it's a whole, I don't know if that's going.
Basically, the evil not unicorns are gaslighting them, saying, "We are the good guys. We are here to help you." And then when they can't be helped, they're like, "It's even more depression."
Oh yeah.
But my thing was kind of
yeah.
one of the underlying ideas is that there's these kids and they don't, like, they've never met a human older than like, originally it was older than like teenagers and up. They've never met humans like that before. And what would that be like if you thought, oh, I'm the oldest human, like, and then meeting older. But like my idea now is a lot more the area where there's a bit more lightness to it is that I have that a lot of the human families that these humans were stolen from our world, are like their brains were altered, and some of them start to kind of figure it out somehow despite the magic. And so there's these families in our world that are trying to figure out the puzzle. There's this penguin character that's trying to figure out the puzzle, and then there's these kids who are discovering that, wait a second, we're human.
It's worth mentioning that originally this wasn't even. She was like, "Yes, this is a story about kids having to free themselves against impossible odds. Also, they are not teenagers. Also, this is super depressing and dark."
Like originally it was they were supposed to prove that they were human by walking a certain distance on 2 feet. And these were kids who hadn't been able to.
Who have never learned to do that.
So
and
there's still a little, I still want sort of that challenge.
Yeah.
That like.
Well, it's like the Jungle Book. The Jungle Book, like, yeah, you're a man, you know about the secret of fire, right? Right, like that kind of a thing, right? So yeah. Anyway.
Well, it was like super dark and depressing, and she's like, "Do I need it like lighter?" And I'm like, "I don't know.
Is this a dark story or not?"
Good idea.
Right.
Yeah. Because the thing was originally of kids who can only live till. Because my thing was like, they like humans can't live, like the world is kind of, because of the evil unicorn king who's in charge of the world and the magic that he's set up. Humans can't live in the world for long. And so the kids like can't live past 13, or they turn into, even if they're like freelings, they turn into minions or whatever. And it was pretty heavy. And so I've changed something to not make it quite so, because it does feel kind of weird. Make like some of what
if one of them doesn't turn? And that becomes a threat, right? Like they don't know why, right? And that becomes a threat, because that one's getting older and becoming a leader slowly. That kind of it. That's just an idea, but
my thing too now is that they didn't actually, like, once they hit a certain age, they didn't actually die if they didn't become freelings. They've just been imprisoned, and so
I got you. Yeah.
Find these other adults that are like have been trapped for a long time, and so there could be that element to it, but anyways, so
I like that.
It was also inspired by as a kid I came up with a world called Keisland, where my alter ego was the queen of penguins and unicorns. And then somehow I took that and the unicorns were evil. But then I didn't want to do that because I was like, that's just too sad. So then I was like, okay, let's make it a deception.
Right. But they're not actually unicorns.
They're not, but the unicorn, I did want, though, because I had good unicorns too originally. And I had these unicorns who have these slaves, they like start to become sympathetic. And so they become like the parent figures. Originally, that's what I had. But I still want them to be those two characters to be good characters in the story and actual real unicorns, but that they have to be careful about how they move against the evil creatures.
Yeah. Have you ever did you ever watch Teen Titans?
Yeah.
The original one, yeah. It's like the Mother May I episode a little bit, if you want to do the funny side, right?
Oh.
If you want to do the funnier, lighter side. Like, it's still dark, but like that's what Mother May I reminds me of, that kind of a thing, the evil gaslighting of little children sort of thing, even though they are teenagers in that situation, they're being told they're little babies. So, but yeah, that's just kind of what it reminds me of. It could definitely be really good, especially if the bad guys are really continually playing up just how like whimsical they supposedly are. Like, the creepier it gets. It gets to child catcher territory, and from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I don't know if you've seen that, but yeah, no, like, by all means, the people taking advantage of children will never not be absolutely terrible and scary. And so might as well occasionally, when you have good intentions as far as the story goes, and a hopefully happy-ish ending on the horizon, then
originally when I was talking with Brendan, I wanted to have them grow up and then come to the real world and struggle, but find healing in the real world. But then Brendan was like, it sounds like you need two, because you want a rescue story and a healing story. So I have kind of so far in my head a part one of like the ending. Like, I even wrote an ending sentence that's very like supposed to be hopeful, but then have a second story where some of these kids are older and they're trying to stick together as a family. And
right. Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Just keep working at it. Really looking forward to updates. Anything else we want to cover on the actual show before we finish?
See, people like your stuff.
Yeah, duh.
People like your stuff.
I'm legitimately looking forward to updates on that one. How's the other one coming? That you've been working on? A little slow?
Rough. With world building from scratch, like something so big that
in depth,
it's hard. And I have Meek, whose name I might change just because like I kind of took that meet from like an actual real person, like named after a real person, and I was like, I don't know if I can actually do that.
Yes, you can.
I know, but I just don't know if that will really work. But anyways, but I like her character a lot, but I still need to develop it more. But I just can't nail down like Tovi or anyone else yet. And so I just
Okay, so it's not world building; it's character.
yeah, but the world
Character
is
building.
a part of like what
You
shapes them.
figured out so much about the. You made so much progress, but you second guess yourself
Yeah.
all the time.
I think what I need to do is I need to just write out like because my thing is I'm always trying to make it consistent. Like I'm trying to make it flow, but the problem is that I go back and I'm like, but I don't like, and so I just need to write out.
No. What you're doing is you
several-
try to make it perfect the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I need an inflatable hammer. I need one of those inflatable hammers I can just bonk you on the head with. Going, stop it. Stop. No. Don't do that. Vomit it out. Just go.
Well, one of the things that's often helped me, and this is something you can do by yourself, is just method act the characters a little bit to yourself. You know, just kind of like be like have a little conversation with them and see if you can kind of start to get a grip on who they are. At that point, if you get that, you can method act your way through either a Myers-Briggs or Enneagram test as that character just for fun, and then read what it says about that type and see if you're like, yeah, that's a load of baloney, or like, no, actually, that's exactly who they are. Tell me more, right? One of my favorite things to do is do the Enneagram one with the characters, and then there's an album by it's a guy's musical solo project, I believe, but it's Sleeping at Last. He has an Enneagram album. I don't know if you ever heard of this, but each track is an Enneagram number, and it's like basically them pouring their heart out, like in a song. And they're sort of Coldplay-ish, but a little bit more singer-songwritery, like a Owl City or something. Very mellow music, but listening to the words as your character really hits. So if you can get a grip enough to where you can take a test and then listen to that, you might get their heart really quickly and things will start falling into place. Because that's the biggest thing for characters for me, is like, where in human experience am I pulling from for this individual? And think of them as a fully orbed individual. You're just learning about them. I guess you could call this character dating. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So you're dating your character, figuring it out.
Well, sometimes I can't quite like choose, and I often want my characters to be more perfect. Like a part of me wants to make them really perfect, but then another part of me is like, but I need to add in things that aren't so flattering about them and that like aren't so perfect.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you've probably I would assume you've met enough people in your life that you've experienced a large swath of human personalities. Most of us have. And so being able to just go, yeah, that's not how that person would be, but this is how this person would be. That's something that is more intuitive and does take time. But try to make them like a real human, even if it's not just a human, like even if it's a what's the term? Not conglomeration, but you see what I'm saying? Like a composite. That's the word I'm looking for. A composite of multiple humans to make one, or multiple characters in fiction to make one. And then just, like I said, think of them as real people. The more you think of them as real people and less like a problem to solve, like world building, the more they're just going to come spilling out. Right. So characters are one of my favorite things to do because of that. It really feels like I'm imagining, like I'm talking with an imaginary friend, literally. So it can be fun, Any other thoughts before we wrap up, Sunshines?
No thoughts, empty head.
Empty head.
It's Saturday!
like I said, I read mine on the other half of this monstrosity I'm going to Frankenstein together of a video. So you guys are the ones to go, and if Abby doesn't show up, it'll be just you guys, at least before 6. So we got like an hour and a half till then. I usually cut off around 6 for most major work, just because I do a good amount of stuff at my church, and I'm trying to keep Sabbath as best as I can. On Sundays and whatnot, Sunday to Saturday. But the yeah, who do we want to go first? Who wants to share first? And I'll give my feedback directly, and then other people can when they hear the broadcast.
That works.
So who wants to go first?
Alrighty.
I don't know. It feels weird without other people here.
Fair enough, but I did this
Can we
last night with the sunshines, and it was fine.
Okay. All right. I guess I can watch it later and actually give us feedback. I prefer the feedback to be live, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, and we'll do more of that. Obviously, we're not adding this in as an extra thing necessarily. It's just this week was so sparse. I wanted to give people an opportunity because everyone was sad about it. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, there were a couple of people who wanted to hear more people read.
Yep.
In the broadcast, including Joel.
Mm-hmm.
Joel was the one who mentioned it specifically. I think Sarah.
Lebec?
Yeah, Lasardo. Yes.
Oh, Lasardo. I keep forgetting she's married.
Okay, so I'm going to read the pretty much standalone 4th chapter in my work in progress. The Worm. That's the title of the chapter.
Oh no, the worm.
The Worm. WYRM. Megan quickly took off for home after leaving orders to have the jewelry and dresses delivered at the end of business day. As she headed through the city, she thought about what she would say to her mother. She would not take the news of Fingal leaving to hunt for a well worm alone kindly. Megan wasn't taking it well herself. Of course she wasn't. But she also wasn't going she also was going to stick by what she promised and not interfere with Fingal's life. Scouting for the beast would be all right, surely. Fingal was intelligent. He wouldn't tangle with a monster alone, would he? Smash cut to. He's doing what? Exclaimed Catriona. Scouting for a worm that tried to eat some of our subjects, mother. Moderation, son. Muttered Yinshan. The ogre sisters rolled their eyes, ended up passing her head down her hand down her face in annoyance. Yinshan, take Birdie, Edda, and some of the men at arms and go after him at once. Oh, mother, please. Megan, come with me to the drawing room. Megan's mind was racing. What was her mother going to do? Where did this sudden resurgence of paranoia come from? Fingal already knew about the curse, already suffered from it. There was nothing more to hide. Catriona shut the door to the drawing room.
Pause 1 second, TK. Keep your place. Casey's calling me.
Oh.
Hey, what's up? I'm recording with the Wilsons. Do you want to just text me? All right, see you in a minute. Bye. Continue.
Wrong document. You should not have let him go. Mother, it is his choice. I want people to know that Fingal is capable of protecting them despite the curse. That is all very well, daughter, but I also want him alive. Fingal isn't a fool, mother. Fool enough to lose his heart to a human girl. If his life is bound to hers now, if she were to die, it would likely kill him. Mother, that is highly unlikely. Why can't you be happy Fingal's found someone at all? Because it was not what I would have wanted for my son. Nothing in his life has been what I would have chosen for him. They are full grown, mother. Full grown and still innocent. That's how I can still say Fingal. You will trust what I say and what you say. Megan recoiled a little. I will not lie, mother. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to just keep him from finding out about these quests and things. Keep him occupied. Occupied how? With tasks here at home. Whether or not you actually need his help. You want him to be safe, don't you? Megan sighed. Well, yes, but then please do as I ask. Mother looked so distraught that Megan nodded. I will do my best. You and I must walk a fine line between what is best for the house and what is best for ourselves. The house and the family must always come first, Adriana continued. Fingal, as your champion, must also walk that line. Fingal rode out, heading east into the living forest. This section of the forest was governed by 4 powers: Adair the Oak King, Avlok the Apple King, kinsman of House Meridian's friend Lord Rodon, the Pixies of Aos Sea, and further to the northwest, House Caberfay. It was into the Oak King's territory he dove. Tirelessly, the unicorn galloped further into the forest and the great craggy rocks behind. Despite only being 3 miles from the city of Meridian, it was in the heart of the forest. He could hear the sound of the waterfall the woodcutters had described, dismounted, and followed the sound of Persepolis right behind. At the edge of the pool, he waited, watching for any movement. Persepolis snorted and nickered, scenting the serpent. Easy, Persepolis. Fingal stroked his nose. I know it cannot be far away. Fingal knelt, looking for any sign of the monster. He found some scaly prints in the mud by the water. He wrinkled his nose. He could smell the poison fouling the water. Persepolis, can you cleanse this water? He asked the unicorn. The beast gracefully knelt down, dipping his horn into the water. Magic flowed from the unicorn's horn, coloring the water vibrant, shifting hues of green, blue, and purple. Fingal kept careful watch, his hand resting on his sword. They were both still in danger. The cleansing is only a temporary measure, Fingal said, half to himself. We must bring back a company well armed to kill this monster. I hope it's not a dragon. There hasn't been one here in ages. Persepolis got up from his knees, the task finished. Fingal drew his sword and swung around in a circle. We must be hunting. We should head home. The worm shot out of the water in that instant, snapping at Fingal's legs. The next few seconds were a blur of muscle memory as Fingal dodged and rolled away from the worm. It was a great green great worm, a common species, very fast, very tricky to kill. Persepolis lunged at the beast with his horn. Unicorns hated serpentine with a passion, and in turn, worms feared unicorns. Unwilling to risk hurting Persepolis, Fingal charged in and drove the worm away from the water. Stay back, Persepolis! Fingal had never really fought a worm of any size before. He'd read about it, certainly. Reading and doing are 2 different things. He backed the beast against a rock face far from the water. The monster wrapped his tail around his midriff like he was going to squeeze tight or thrash him about. Fingal stood on the beast's body with one foot and aimed to blow it with his sword at its neck. The worm twisted its tail and tried to swing Fingal away. The elf managed to strike it in the eye. It shrieked and released him, the sharp end of its tail slicing through Fingal's tunic and into his skin. He wasn't distracted for long. He swept on the creature's blind side and took off its head in 2 blows. He doubled back from the body, shaking from the adrenaline in his system. He touched the cut across his chest and side. How will I explain this to my mother? He felt very dizzy and cold. He fell to the grass holding his head, which suddenly throbbed with pain. Must have been venom in its tail, he slurred. Persepolis stepped up to him and rested his glowing horn on his cheek, warmth driving away the numbness and purging the venom. Fingal looked down. The cut was healed completely. Thank you, my friend. The unicorn knelt down. Fingal crawled over so he could pull him up onto his back, but lacked the strength. Let's rest here for a moment. I still feel quite ill. Fingal went limp. The next thing Fingal knew, he felt a tiny tickle of a breeze. He killed the worm, said a little female voice. Is he alive? Said another. Felt the whisper of a breeze and a little pressure on his throat. He is. The unicorn must have saved him from the venom. Poor Lord Feakban, boomed a loud male voice, one he knew belonging to King Adair, the Oak Dryad. He opened his eyes to see a little flock of pixie women fluttering around him, accompanied by King Adair. He was a solid, stout tree man, not as tall as Rodon, and always wore armor and a cape made of oak leaves. He was different from other dryads, more militant and of a martial spirit, whereas others of his people were only roused to battle after much convincing. The tall, thin elf, with white leather gloves on his hands and short, curly black hair, stood nearby, looking at Fingal with concern. One of the pixies, with skin as dark as the earth, flew towards his face and pulled down his lower eyelid with both tiny hands. Oh, miss! Exclaimed Fingal in surprise. Poison's purged, but you still feel pretty sick, right? Asked the pixie. Fingal nodded. Get on your steed and follow us. We'll take you to our queen. Yes, and then I'll examine him, said the thin elf. Fingal obeyed, climbing onto Bucephalus's back, feeling rather like a sack of potatoes. King Adair came around the other side and helped him on. There we go, my boy. How are you feeling? Dizzy. Fingal laid his head on Bucephalus's neck ruefully. Don't get the corgi and the cart, said the dark-skinned pixie. We came out here to pick blackberries, which we haven't been able to without protection for some time. That's why Lysander and I came, said Adair, gesturing to the other elf. We were their escort. A look of realization came into Fingal's face. Lysander? Lysander Moss from Silverlode? Yes, my lord. The professor has been expecting you. I didn't realize the professor was worried about me. The cart, pulled by a squat little dog with sandy-colored fur and bright button eyes, came trotting out of the bushes. Fingal thought to himself that his sister would be utterly charmed by the creature, as she was by all small animals. The cart went before them. The pixies flew ahead of the two elves, Unicorn and Dryad. Adair had taken Bucephalus's reins. Still feeling unwell, son? The Dryad asked. Yes, but better. Lysander slipped on a mossy rock but quickly righted himself. He seemed to be a nervous sort of fellow, all long arms and legs, but wasn't sure what to do with, and more than a little clumsy. Are you well, Lysander? Fingal asked. I'm fine, my lord, he answered. Just, less than graceful. Anyone can slip on a rock, Fingal said, trying to make him feel better. No, but I kept falling into so many things when I was a child, people were afraid I was going to get killed in some accident before I came of age. That's why I decided to pursue pharmacological alchemy. I learned how to patch myself up so well, my playfellows all came to me to doctor their scrapes and bruises. Fingal half smiled. You seem to be just the sort of fellow the professor would choose. But how did you come to be here? The worm caught me unawares and would have eaten me up if his Idas had been passing by at the time. Pish tosh, coughed Adair. I've been recovering here for a few days. The Pixie Queen insisted, Lysander explained. Well, you may come back with me. Soon enough, they came to a little clearing surrounded by huge trees and clusters of mushrooms. In every direction, Fingal could see the glow of pixie wings as they flew around the city. They were all different. Some were dark-skinned, some fairer than himself, some were even green. Their wings were all shapes and colors, birds, butterflies, dragonflies, damselflies, and some of the green ones had beetle shells over their wings. The pixie leader patted Fingal on the shoulder. You stay put. We'll bring the queen to you. He flew away as Adair and Lysander helped Fingal down off his unicorn, putting him down on a large mushroom. Lysander took Fingal's pulse, examined his eyes, and administered some Elysium. You should start feeling better soon, he said. Nothing I can do for your tunic, though. Between the Elysium and Bucephalus's magic, I'm feeling fine now. Good, you even have some color in your cheeks, exclaimed Lysander, taking a step back and nearly on a pixie's house. When the little beetle pixie popped out and began scolding him, he bowed, this time running into Adair. Steady on. My apologies. Please excuse me. Sit down, boy, before you fall down. They weren't left waiting long. Flying towards them on iridescent wings came the Pixie Queen. 4 attendant pixies carried her cape, 2 more carried her train. In her hand she carried a wand that looked rather like a cane, and on her delicate head sat a silver crown. Her golden hair was cropped short. Most pixie women wore their hair short to keep it out of the way when they flew. Fingal bowed from his seat, followed by Adair and Lysander. Pixie Queen extended her hand to Fingal, who accepted it on his forefinger and gave it a tiny kiss. Welcome to AOC, Knight of Meridian. I am Queen Una. Your Highness, said Fingal with another bow. I understand you killed the serpent that haunted the pool where you harvest blackberries. Thank you. It was the least I could do, Your Highness. We have an area where our bigger guests can rest on the other side of the royal oak, should you require it. In the meantime, come to my drawing room. I want to hear all the news. Fingal followed the queen and her attendants. Lysander, gather your things. I shan't be long, he called. The royal oak was a mighty tree with windows and doors all around for letting the pixies in and out. The queen's drawing room sat about 4 feet up the trunk, with a large, sturdy mushroom nearby for big folk to use as stools. Fingal sat down cautiously on the mushroom nearest the door while Queen Una entered the room. The pixies let down her cape and train. She landed, folded her wings, and walked, limping slightly and supporting herself with her staff, towards her chair, which was made from a large pine cone. Fingal leaned down, thinking oddly of Megan's old dollhouse. There was an odd cone-shaped object by the Queen's Zone. Too many odds in a row, thank you. which was just at the level of her mouth when seated. She swung the object towards her and spoke into it. Now come tell me all the news about all the news out of Meridian. They say the son of the house goes about disrupting the peace of Caberfay and spiriting Lord Oran's subjects out of the city. Her voice was amplified by speaking in a tone, so Fingal could hear her clearly. That I cannot say, said Fingal, blushing a bit. We should have expected the pixies he rescued would have said something of him. They also say he has silver hair and dresses all in black. The queen, a little of teasing in her voice. That is so, your highness. Coy and charming though you are, you must be the young Lord Meridian. At your service, your highness. The queen laughed. I must thank you for returning my subjects to me. I have done nothing but sing your praises. I only wish I could have done more, Fingal bowed his head. You have done more than many could have or would have. Do not be ashamed. Fingal raised his head. Your highness, are you familiar with a rhyme called The Forgotten Ones? Of course, it's a popular one. Can you tell me how the whole rhyme goes? Queen Una looked confused, but started in. Boy with hair like starlight, pale child shining white, dark-haired girl who brings the sun, now here comes the forgotten one. Forgotten one we know of old, more valuable than gold, something rare we cannot hold. For now the story is untold. Silver child, golden child, two roses growing wild. All who see them are beguiled, on them the sun has smiled. What does it mean, your highness? Mean? I've heard the first line before. It seems to have been some significance to it. Una shrugged. To us it's only doggerel. Fingal nodded, looking concerned. My mother, I believe, put some stock in it. He suddenly staggered back and slapped a hand to his forehead. Gracious! Mother! It's getting late. She will worry about me being gone so long. I meant only to scout for the beast. Well, you'd better get off home then, said the queen, rising from her throne. In a very few minutes, Fingal and Lysander were off. Lysander trailed a little behind on his horse, burdened with all his worldly goods. My lord, he called up. Yes, Master Moss. Well, nothing, never mind. You seem awkward, Master Moss. Well, yes, I've never been this far from home before. Ah. And really, I wanted to know, is the story true? What story? Fingal turned around in his saddle. That you defeated the rich Sycorax single-handed. How could the story have gotten so twisted so soon? Fingal sighed. No, I did not kill the witch. It was the Lady Railtruck who killed her, to save me. She felled me with her shadow magic and would have killed me if not for the Lady Railtruck. Oh, forgive me, my lord, that's just how I heard it. I suppose it doesn't make a good story to hear about your house champion being rescued by a girl. If I may, my lord, the fact that you admit that you needed help bodes well for you. Thank you, Lysander, said Fingal with a soft smile to himself. When they finally arrived at Keep Meridian, it was well after dark. Megan came and met them at the door. Fingal, it's very late. What happened to your tunic? Did you find the beast? Yes, I found the worm, and it will hurt no one again. Megan frowned a little. I thought you were scouting for it only. It attacked me. I had no choice. Is Mother angry? It's honestly hard to tell. She looked over Fingal's shoulder to see Lysander. Oh, who is this? This is Master Moss, the professor's apprentice. Lysander bowed hastily and kissed Megan's hand, looking in awe at her. At your service, my lady. Megan smiled and motioned over some men-at-arms. Gentlemen, take Mr. Moss's things to his guest chamber, please. Next to come down was the professor, who quickened his pace when he saw Lysander. My dear boy, what took you so long? I've been concerned. It's a long story, Professor. One you could tell me over a cup of tea in my laboratory. Tell me, do you have any experiments with salamanders? The elemental creatures or the amphibians? Elementals. None, I'm afraid. They're not native to my home. Well, you can learn. All mine are quite tame. Fingal watched the professor chatter happily with Lysander as they walked toward the lab. Fingal turned to go to his room to get changed when he saw his mother stalking towards him. Megan quickly tried to cover his damaged clothes, but from her expression, her mother saw it anyway. Fingal, what kind of mischief have you been into? Mother, Megan tried to intercede. She nudged Megan out of the way so she could get a good look at the damage. Her mother's eyes turned stormy as she put together what had happened. How could you be so careless? She demanded. Mother, what did I send you off to Shangri-La for but to learn discipline? It attacked us, Mother. I had no choice, or would you have had me retreat? Yes, I would have. Mother, Megan tried to speak again. Silence, daughter, Catriona commanded before turning to her son. You are hereby confined to this castle in the gardens. Mother, I am not a child, Fingal barked. I charge you by your blade and your heart's blood that you shall not leave this castle or its immediate grounds. Fingal bowed his head to hide the smoldering anger in his eyes. This is for your own good, my son. One day you will thank me. Catriona walked out of the room, leaving the twins by themselves. Megan put her arm around his shoulders and whispered in his ear, Don't worry, brother, I have an idea. That's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, one of the things that I've always appreciated about what you're doing is specifically the zero hesitation any of the characters have to do whatever it is that is natural to themselves and their world. And you leave the narrator to explain why that's natural, but you don't over explain that. Right? A lot of people get in like the super hyper world buildy mode where they're like, yeah, it was totally normal for them to do this because this is what their people do and this is what they've done forever. And one of the things that you have this like headstrong forcefulness about this is what we're doing, like without even a second thought from any of your characters. And the narrator will only occasionally come in and say, this is why. Right. And there are things that I don't understand why your characters are doing them. But I'm fully and completely engrossed and totally believe 100% that they're doing that out of their own character and not out of plot contrivance whatsoever. Like I'm fully and happily in your character's hands because it's obvious they know what they're doing. Right. Except when you specifically, of course, want them to not look like they know what they're doing. Then we really, truly know. But that's just something I've always really appreciated. The part of the thing is, that I'm dealing with is low volume because of this situation. You may see me doing this a whole lot. I did hear pretty much the story. I think, get it. The vibes that I'm getting more than anything, I mean, I've heard this story before, you know, not this part of it, but the specifics and the world, they're all just come alive, like everyone says. But like I said, also, I'm going to raise the volume on the edited version so everyone can hear it properly and everything, too. So I'm just thoroughly engrossed in the character work more than anything. That's one of the things you've always done best is I know who's talking when person's talking, and part of that's your reading, but I think way more of it's your writing. You do such a good job of giving each individual character their own thing, and I think you're even better than me at that, honestly. So well done. So,
Thank you.
We have Ian next. If you had any other thoughts or follow up, go right ahead. But and if Ian has feedback for her, that'd be great.
I'm not in a position to offer feedback.
Okay. She's confused.
I'll give you feedback later. How about that?
That works.
There you go.
All right. So now what I can do, that's not exactly finished. I've been working on Heart of the Stars, of course, but the next chapter in sequence is not finished yet.
Right.
That's it's not done. I added another chapter, so it's not nearly finished yet. But I can read you. There's a Walter Ulrich story that I wrote a couple of years ago for my anthology to just kind of round things out, and it was kind of slapdash. It was poorly done, but it was a time crunch. I didn't have a lot of time to go back and edit it and make it perfect, so I just kind of shoved it in the anthology as is. But I was never really satisfied with it. There's a lot of things about that anthology that I don't particularly like.
Right.
I've just decided to go back and rewrite a lot of the stories and then republish them later. And this is one of the stories that I've been working on this week. I added a whole extra scene to it to give. I wanted to give more time to develop Conrad's character and make him more interesting. I mean, he's an interesting character to begin with, but he's not. He doesn't really have his own voice. But Walter is such a forceful personality that Conrad just kind of sits in the background. But
Yeah.
Conrad is interesting himself. So I have this story. I can either read the whole thing, or I can just read the chapter, or read the extra scene that I wrote. It's 11 pages long.
I mean, the whatever you want to do is fine with me at this point. So,
Okay. Hot black coffee slid down my throat. Diner smelled of waffles, sausage, and hash browns. Alan Jackson crooned on the radio. This was Middle America. Flyover town with a single stoplight. Conrad, my newfound friend, sat next to me, sipping his own brew. It's been like that for how long? He asked. Since right after the Civil War, I replied. It got worse in the 60s, though. Conrad LaFontaine nodded knowingly. I had a feeling my newfound companion knew something I didn't. Spooky stuff became so common folks just almost forgot it was weird, I continued. When the word got around that I was a werewolf, half the town just accepted it as a fact. I've heard of cases like this, he said. Hey, you, said a gruff voice from behind us. I slowly turned around. A large fat man with a grizzled beard and stained shirt stood behind Conrad. You're in my spot. I didn't see your name on it, Conrad replied. Well, it's my spot, insisted the yokel. Beat it, dog breath. We were here first, I grumbled. Who are you calling dog breath, you ugly son of a something? said the yokel. I squinted at him threateningly and said nothing more. Drop it, hog, said the waitress, a middle-aged, heavy lady with red hair that was obviously a dye job. You know, you got a face on you that I don't even think a mother could love, continued Hogg, ignoring the waitress. Shut your pie hole, Hogg, she said. I mean it. Big talk from someone who looks like he won a Halloween costume contest without a costume, I replied coolly. Walter, do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him, said Conrad. A fool's mouth invites a beating, I quoted. I read a bit of the good book too, you know. Grind a fool with a mortar and pestle, and his folly will not leave him, Conrad quoted in reply. Who are you calling fool, you? Hogg uttered a racial slur that I refused to repeat. I rose up from my stool, towering over Hogg. I didn't mention this before, but I am no less than 6'4" tall. Even taller in my boots. Hogg was a mere 5'5". He clearly regretted his decision to challenge us, but not quite as much as he should have. You don't scare me, he growled. I should, I replied. Conrad shook his head and said, de-escalate, in a low voice. Just then, Hogg drew a pocket knife and slashed at me, barely missing me. He came in for a downward stab with the knife, but I blocked the blow with a bar stool. He cursed in pain, clutching his injured hand. While he was distracted by the pain, I put my right knee into his head. Hogg crumpled. The waitress shook her head. I really ought to ban him from the diner, she said. Smooth, said Conrad. Drawing my wallet from the pocket of my leather vest, I left a generous tip for the waitress. Let's beat it, I said. Thank you for the meal, Conrad said. Now I'm going to add another line in here. Sorry for the mess. Thank you for the meal, Conrad said before following me out the door. Do you do this often? He asked. Do what? I asked in return. Start fights with strangers. LaFontaine, I was an enforcer in a biker gang for 5 years, I responded. Starting fights with strangers was literally my job. There's got to be a better way to have a good time, Conrad replied. Wait till I take you to this dive bar I know, I responded. That's a real good time. Conrad rolled his eyes. No wonder half of your hometown has a problem with you. That's nothing, I added. I've been banned from 5 towns across the United States and 1 in Canada. Strapping on my helmet, I straddled my bike, slid my glasses over my eye. What the heck happened here? Slid my glasses over my eyes and yeah. Well, I guess this is so long, I said. So long? Asked Conrad. Yeah, I'm going home. You're going wherever you're going, I replied with a shrug. If you're ever in West Virginia, let me know. We could have a good time. Oh, I'm pretty sure you can, he said. That's why I ain't going there alone. That's why you ain't going there alone. I stared back at him. You mean that? You've got a level 6 haunting, Walter, Conrad said. I've only ever seen one other instance of a haunting that bad. I better come with you. I grinned. Well, better not let the grass grow beneath our feet. Let's burn some rubber. Let's obey the traffic laws, replied Conrad. Someone needs to show you how to have fun, I said, starting my bike. I peeled out of that gravel parking lot, popping a wheelie as I hit the highway. Conrad followed me in his Jeep, towing the Airstream camper behind him. We drove until nightfall when we crossed the Kentucky line. I motioned to Conrad to indicate I was taking the ramp off the interstate down a lonely highway, a shortcut I'd discovered in my travels. Down that tree-lined road we went, past many lonely farms and small villages where cattle and chickens roamed in the barnyards beside old Appalachian farmhouses. It was getting to be time for us to rest for the night. We passed by a sign for a local inn of sorts where we might find lodging. Pointing at the sign, I indicated to my traveling companion where we should be stopping. I headed down the road toward the place indicated. I won't say the inn was decrepit. It wasn't, though it was in need of more than a fresh coat of paint. After parking our vehicles, we entered the inn, where the innkeeper sat behind a desk reading a magazine. He was an older man, probably in his late 50s or 60s, with a thick mustache and balding head. His clothing was plain and standard for that area, blue jeans and a plaid shirt. Evening, innkeeper, I said. Have you got any rooms for the night? I'm sorry, sir, the man said. Fresh out of rooms. What about room 13? Inquired Conrad, gesturing to the board behind the innkeeper, on which hung a single key labeled 13. Oh, you don't want to stay in room 13, the innkeeper replied. Why not? Asked Conrad. It's not recommended, replied the innkeeper. Not recommended by who? I pressed. Well, let's just say the Yelp reviews ain't been too kindly. Kindness is overrated, I stated. Conrad drew me aside. My dude, I'm getting some strange vibes from this place, he said. What the hell do you mean by vibes? I asked. I can sense what's going on in the spiritual dimension, said Conrad. I feel energy, magic, both good and evil. And I'm getting some very evil vibes. Something very bad has happened here. I had heard of people with this gift, if you call it a gift. I'm somewhat sensitive to it myself, being a werewolf and all. I can sense things that others don't. Does this sort of thing happen a lot? I inquired. Since I was a child, he responded. I think we should help this guy out. There's clearly something very wrong here that is beyond his ability to handle. I hesitated. It seemed like it was just going to delay us in getting back to my hometown, but Conrad had a duty to perform, and I couldn't stand in his way. Agreed, I replied. Turning to the innkeeper, I said, "How long has there been a problem in room 13? "Since I bought the place in '89, he replied. "Did the previous owner tell you there was something off?" I pressed further. "They never said anything," replied the innkeeper. "I suppose they didn't want to spook me out of buying the place." I nodded. "Who was the first person to disappear?" asked Conrad. "Oh, it was a nice young lady in October of '89, I do believe," replied the innkeeper. "It was terrible. There was all this screaming, and when I went to check on the room, the place was a mess, and she was nowhere to be found. Vanished without a trace. I put posters of her up and everything. I got a scrapbook full of people who've gone missing after staying in that room." I drew Conrad aside. "Are we entirely certain this dude ain't like Norman Bates?" I asked. Conrad looked at the man, then back at me. "He's harmless. He's just as clueless as we are." Conrad turned to the innkeeper and said, "May we look at the scrapbook?" "Sure," said the innkeeper, "though I can't think why you'd wanna." The man brought out an old, worn, dusty book and set it down on a table. Conrad and I looked over the pages, counting off the newspaper clippings, missing persons reports, and posters till we came to the last page. There were 13 of them. Double unlucky. "We'll take the room," said Conrad. "Well," said the innkeeper, "hope your affairs are in order." We signed in on the dotted line. The innkeeper then took us to the room in question and handed us the key. Conrad entered first, switching on the light. The place seemed normal enough at first. Then Conrad paused. He grasped his head like he's just developed a severe headache. "You all right?" I asked. "I'll be okay," said Conrad. "There's been a great evil in here." We then began our systematic search of the room. Conrad occasionally sprinkling blessed salt here and there, chanting quietly in Latin. I simply followed my nose, so to speak. We found in certain places, representing the four cardinal directions, a symbol or sigil, which had occult significance, though I knew not what. Conrad seemed to recognize it. I had a weird suspicion that the rug under my feet hid something important. Removing the small coffee table, I rolled back the rug, revealing a pentagram burned into the hardwood floor. We stared at it for a minute. "Well," I said, "isn't that a daisy?" We decided to head over to the local dive bar in hopes of getting some answers from the locals. The sound of Creedence Clearwater Revival filtered out into the street as we approached the establishment. Very appropriate given what we were about to endure. Chihuahua stood guard outside, tied to a post. The little dog barked at me ferociously. I growled in reply, and the animal cowered away from us. I felt the impact of Conrad's elbow on my ribs. He gestured to the same strange sigil, scrawled in chalk on the brick wall. The place smelled like beer and abandoned hopes. Typical small-town types gathered there. Blue-collar workers after a long day, loose women and looser men, town drunks, and old fogies. We caught some attention as we entered. Black folks like Conrad weren't common in this part of the country, and let's face it, I'm an impressive specimen of a man. I'm actually going to change that sentence later. We sat down at the bar. The barkeep was a young lady, probably in her mid-20s, who'd spent a few too many hours at the tattoo parlor. She was a bit on the heavy side, but not excessively so. Her hair was blonde, with dyed purple ends, which matched her fingernails. She wore a deep red top, which didn't leave much to the imagination. "What can I get for you?" I'm sorry, I hate doing this accent. She asked in a heavy Brooklyn accent. Bit odd for Kentucky. I'll have a whiskey on the rocks, I replied. I'll have a ginger ale, said Conrad. I'm driving. You ain't from around here, are you? Oh, that's the wrong voice. You ain't from around here, are you? I inquired. No, I'm from Flatbush, she said. Name's Beatrix. I moved out here because my boyfriend, Charlie, he's a local. Speaking of which, I've never seen you guys here before. We're passing through, I said. Oh, where are you staying? asked Beatrix. We're at the inn, responded Conrad. Room 13. A look of concern washed over Beatrix's face. You got a death witch? Nope, just looking for some answers, I replied, sipping my whiskey. Hear anything strange about room 13? I hear all kinds of things, remarked Beatrix. You don't want to stay in room 13. That place is hexed. What can you tell me about it? Asked Conrad. Charlie would know more about it than I do. Can't stand typos, replied Beatrix. Hey, babe, said a rugged man as he emerged from the kitchen. He wore a plaid shirt with the sleeves ripped off in a manner similar to Larry the Cable Guy. A tattoo of a rattlesnake coiled its way up his muscled right arm with the inscription, Don't Tread on Me, in an ornate font. His left arm was decorated with flaming motorcycles. He wore a cap over his curly dark hair, bearing an image of a wide-mouthed bass. In all, the man was a redneck, and I mean that with all the affection in the world. He gave Beatrix a gentle pat on the buttocks, accompanied by a kiss on her cheek. I gathered this was Charlie. You talking about me? Yeah, he said. Yeah, these guys want to know about room 13 in the inn, replied Beatrix. Charlie went pale. What do y'all want to know about that for? We're staying there tonight, I responded. You ought not to do that, replied Charlie. My papa said that place was hexed. He done seen some odd goings on in that there room. Said there was a coven doing human sacrifice up there. That would explain some weirdness, remarked Conrad. He drew a folded piece of paper from his pocket and handed it and laid it on the bar. Have you seen this before? He asked, unfolding the paper to reveal the symbol he saw etched in the wall. Oh, cheese and crackers, said Beatrix. That's exactly the symbol Violet showed me the other day. Where did you see this? Asked Conrad. It's really weird, but it's been showing up all over town. Oh, wrong voice. It's really weird, but it's been showing up all over town, replied Charlie. If you look for it, you'll see it, in the little spaces everywhere. Someone scratched it into Charlie's motorcycle tires, added Beatrix. I was pissed, said Charlie. So you guys Ghostbusters or something? Asked Beatrix. He is, I said, gesturing to Conrad. I'm just helping out. What we are, said Charlie. Take my advice. Get out of that room and get out of town. We'll take that under advisement, said Conrad. Having finished my drink, we returned to the inn, where Conrad set up some of his fancy equipment. Thermal imaging cameras, EV machines, some equipment I didn't recognize. He was really a professional at this. I'm an amateur. Now we wait, said Conrad. There we sat in the dark, drinking coffee and eating donuts. The only light came from the equipment. It was an hour or so before I felt the temperature in the room drop. Do you feel that? I whispered. Yeah, replied Conrad. Something ain't right. We peered through the thermal camera to see what might have caused it. The sigil on the floor began to glow brightly. Thinking quickly, Conrad poured blessed salt on the mark. But this did nothing to prevent what happened next. The sigil suddenly vanished. A black pit opened up in the floor below. I'm betting that there rabbit hole don't go to Wonderland, I remarked. I know you ain't known me that long, reader, but I have kind of a darkly ironic sense of humor. After years of what some shrink would consider psychological trauma, I've learned to make light of bad situations by injecting a joke or two. It's a coping mechanism. Maybe not a good one, but it's something anyway. A black hand reached up out of the pit and grabbed hold of my leg. With my free foot, I stomped the hand, eliciting a hiss from whatever lurked below. Conrad drew a squirt bottle full of holy water from his belt and sprayed the creature. The hand let go and vanished into the darkness. A second later, my head became enveloped in a black shape. I felt its claws digging into my skull. Sharp teeth sank into my flesh. I struggled to get the damn thing off, but it held on. I fell on the floor, struggling with the creature. "Stay still!" cried Conrad. "You stay still!" I retorted. The man let loose a stream of holy water from the gun. Squealing like a stuck pig, the creature released its grip and crawled back toward the hole. "No, you don't," I said, drawing my revolver. Before you could whistle Dixie, I had a silver bullet in that critter. It fell down into the hole. Another critter leaped out from the hole, latching onto Conrad's leg and biting down. Conrad fell to the floor. Thinking quickly, I took my Bowie knife from the sheath and tried to slit the creature's throat. Turning its attention from Conrad, the thing scratched my hand with its razor-sharp claws. Changing my grip, I stabbed the thing in the back. It screamed with pain, releasing its grip on Conrad. Instantly, it changed into a dry, desiccated husk. Yet another one of those damn critters crawled out of the hole. Without another thought, I drew my revolver and fired. Unfortunately, I missed. The thing leaped up like a frog and bit my bicep. Cursing with pain from the bite, I slashed the critter with my Bowie knife, but that only seemed to make it mad. Critter crawled around to my back, where I couldn't reach it with the knife. Aiming with his holy water gun, Conrad doused the thing. Howling with pain, it fell from my back, and like the other, it turned into a desiccated husk. Then the hole finally closed. We were alone, panting from our exertions. Conrad sprinkled some holy water over the pentagram, chanting in Latin. Gradually, the symbol vanished. There was a vigorous pounding on the door. I opened the door for the innkeeper. He was as white as a sheet. "Excuse me, what was that?" he asked. He then saw the decaying goblin bodies on the floor. "Is that what's been taking people in here?" "What we have here is a goblin," explained Conrad. "It's a supernatural creature. You shouldn't have any more problems here." "These things were on my property?" asked the innkeeper. "You got any waffles?" I inquired, wishing to sate my hunger. "My insurance ain't gonna believe this," continued the innkeeper, ignoring my questions. It was about that time that the police arrived to investigate the commotion. "What's the problem here, Frank?" asked one of the officers. "Just a pest control problem," replied the innkeeper. "No reason to make a fuss." "I heard something about a gunshot," remarked the other officer. "You want to see some shooting? Come on in," I said, opening the door wide for the officers. Seeing the goblin corpses on the floor, one of the officers choked down a dry heave. "Let me radio this in," he said. Several minutes later, the officer returned with gloves and biohazard bags to collect the corpses. Conrad insisted on blessing the gloves with holy water and a prayer, and the officers proceeded with their work. "Never speak to this incident again," said one of the men. We all nodded, and the policeman left with the goblin corpses. I had a feeling this wasn't the first time they dealt with such a case. This town seemed to be bewitched. One of these days, we'll have to go back and remedy that. How about those waffles? I said. Yeah, how about 'em? Concurred Conrad. I'll fix you all some waffles, said the innkeeper. You deserve it. After a long nap, Conrad and I packed up our gear and moved onward, down through the Appalachians toward North Fork, West Virginia, my home.
Very nice. Very nice.
You like it?
I'm still here.
I was gonna say,
I just had to unmute. Casey
okay.
came in for
But
a little
you're-
while, and so I was trying to mute for y'all so you didn't get distracted from reading. So
Well, your face was frozen, so I didn't know.
my face is frozen still, or no?
It is still frozen. I think it's on my end, though, so don't even worry about it. I know what you look like anyway.
Checking to see. No, it is going on mine. Anyway, okay. So, yeah, I hadn't heard this one before. This was fun. I think the existence of the goblins is a little bit less thematic than some of your other monsters. That being said, this is much more of a character piece for both Conrad and Walter. And so I like that. I like that sometimes it is more monster of the week. And so I think that the one thing just quality wise is tying something about the theme of the monster of the week to their character development. That was something that shows like Buffy and other things did really, really well, is even if it was a crappy monster of the week, it would have some kind of tie thematically to what the characters are going through. So that's something you could do. But I did enjoy it. It was well crafted. It followed all the logical conclusions. It did a good job furthering Conrad and Walter's character and their relationship. So that's what I have there. TK, did you have anything for him, or are you going to be equally as stingy as he was with you?
Well, I've heard this one before. That's all. And I've always liked this one. Because one of our mutual friends helped out with it and basically created Beatrix. So
yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah. You know her too. So anyway,
I think I know who you're talking about.
You probably do. Yeah, that was one of the creative choices that I wasn't crazy about in here was the goblins. The reason I chose goblins was because of the famous Kentucky goblins.
Yes.
Well,
I didn't connect that, but yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
They're famous among people like us, but they're, probably not as well known as Bigfoot.
They're a lesser known cryptid. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons I picked goblins. I may not keep that. I may change the monster, the creature, to something else. I don't know what, but it may be something else, or maybe have some more dialogue in the bar, like getting stories from locals about stuff that happened, weird stuff that they saw. So I don't know. As the rewrites progress, I'm sure that something else will happen. I don't know. Maybe I'll have Walter get in another bar fight.
Oh boy. Well, that, unless we have Abigail come in between now and 6 for us, that's going to be the extra segment. Do you guys have anything else you want to say? I'm not doing a sign off on this one. I'm just going to tie them together weirdly with the old sign off. It's Friday night. Happy times. All right, everybody. Be your family's bar. Do not turn to the right or to the left, and the Lord will be with you wherever you go. And before we say the last part, remember, Broodcast, last Friday of every month, 8 o'clock. Hopefully we'll have a big one next time. Swamp Mail, yeah, Swamp Mail too, but that's for Burnt Marshwiggle. But yes, Swamp Mail. Send me stuff to read on Burnt Marshwiggle. Questions, comments, thoughts. JoshuaDavidLing@gmail.com. Do not turn to the right or to the left, and the Lord will be with you wherever you go. We'll see you next time in the trenches on Poets at War.
For more episodes of Poets at War, please visit JoshuaDavidLing.com or check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere you get your podcast transmissions. This is Sergeant Ollie, signing out.
God of song said